Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Friends, before going into the details of the war, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell. Please support by subscribing and turning on the notification bell. We are a strong community. Bulgaria's parliament votes in favor of supplying weapons to Ukraine. Bulgaria's National Assembly voted by a large majority on November 3 to supply weaponry to Ukraine. The vote, with 175 in favor, 49 against and 1 abstention, came at the close of a 4-hour debate. The decision was supported by Democratic Bulgaria, GERB UDF, We Continue the Change, the Movement for Rights and Freedoms, and Bulgaria Ascending, and opposed by the Bulgarian Socialist Party and Vuzrajdane. Parliament's decision supersedes one by the previous legislature earlier this year that limited Bulgaria to supplying only military technical assistance to Ukraine. The November 3 vote came a day after a joint meeting of Parliament's committees on defense and on foreign affairs that backed draft decisions tabled by Democratic Bulgaria and by GERB UDF in favor of supplying weapons to Ukraine. On Thursday, MPs voted in favor of a consolidated and edited version of the two draft decisions. The decision gives Bulgaria's government a month to draft a decision on the military and military technical assistance that Bulgaria should provide to Ukraine. The government is also required to organize, as soon as possible, the signing of agreements for the provision of the necessary military equipment, taking into account Bulgarian capabilities. The decision requires the government to negotiate with Bulgaria's NATO allies to provide the country with military equipment and thus expedite Bulgaria getting rid of its obsolete Soviet-era armaments. Parliament also requires the government to propose a package of measures for Bulgaria to participate in the reconstruction of Ukraine, and requires Bulgaria to support Ukraine's court action against Russia in the European Court of Human Rights. Democratic Bulgaria's Atanas Slaviv told the House, "We are standing by our allies and strengthening our defense. Now we have a chance to align with our allies in the EU and NATO and together provide the military technical assistance Ukraine needs. Now we have a chance to decisively strengthen our defense capacity." GERB UDF MP Georg Georgiev dismissed the argument that the Bulgarian public were opposed to supplying weapons to Ukraine, saying that if that were true, the electorate would not have voted in the October elections to send a majority of parties to parliament that were in favor of doing so. Observers regarded the change of position by former caretaker Prime Minister and former Defense Minister Stefan Yunev's Bulgaria Ascending as a surprise, given that at the joint meeting of the committees on November 2, it had been opposed. On November 3, Bulgaria Ascending said that it would support the decision, but on condition that Bulgaria receives replacement military capacity. The BSP and Vuzrajdane claimed that the decision would involve Bulgaria in the war between Russia and Ukraine. On November 2, caretaker Defense Minister Dimitar Stoyanov told reporters that he would recommend that military aid be given to Ukraine in such a way that the capabilities of the Bulgarian military were not reduced. "We would hardly provide the heavy weaponry requested by Ukraine for the simple reason that we would lose specific capabilities that could not be so quickly restored. Let's not forget that Bulgaria is a country bordering the conflict and at some point we may find ourselves in a rather difficult situation," Stoyanov said. "If someone expects us to give away our anti-aircraft missile systems, I'm sorry, but that cannot happen," he said. In about 100 words on Chancellor Scholz's visit to Beijing. "We use cookies on our website in order to bring you the best online experience this week." German Chancellor Olaf Scholz will be traveling to China. His visit is the first G7 and EU leader since the start of the pandemic to meet with Xi Jinping come against the backdrop of the controversial decision to allow a Chinese shipping group, COSCO, to buy a stake in a Hamburg port terminal. Given the significance of this trip, GLOBSEC asks 4 experts, what would categorize the trip as a success for Chancellor Scholz? Dr. Stephen Nagy, Senior Associate Professor, International Christian University. Chancellor Scholz, as the first G7 leader to visit China after the 20th Party Congress and the consolidation of Xi Jinping's control over all levels of the Chinese political system, is seen by experts and bureaucrats in Germany and other like-minded countries as naive, deeply problematic, and a reflection that Scholz has not learned from the failed engagement with Russia, who now continues to attack the sovereign state of Ukraine. As unlikely as it is, unless he secures guarantees of a reciprocal, rule of law-based approach by China towards Germany and other countries when it comes to protecting economic investments in China, Mr. Scholz risks massively damaging his and Germany's credibility when it comes to pushing back against authoritarian states and their efforts to erode the rules-based order. Dr. Ilika Kizekova, senior researcher, Center for the Study of Global Regions and Asia-Pacific Unit Head, Institute of International Relations Prague. Olaf Scholz's trip to China as a delicate diplomatic venture and an exploratory mission that should be viewed in the context of Germany's comprehensive strategic partnership with Beijing, but also within the responsibilities of the G7 chairmanship. Scholz has already indicated that his trip to Japan in April was a clear political signal that both Germany and the EU would prioritize those Asian allies with democratic values and would intensify engagements with the Indo-Pacific. If he can deliver this message to Xi Jinping and also stress that more support of Russia in Ukraine would be viewed as crossing a red line, then he is setting up the relationship with China on the right trajectory. Roland Freudenstein, Vice President and head of GLOBSEC Brussels. This visit should not take place at all, not at this time, right after the triumphant Party Congress, not without other EU leaders, like Macron, and not with the sale of a part of the port of Hamburg to boot. So it cannot become a success in absolute terms. It would still have a positive effect, at least, if Scholz made it abundantly clear to his hosts that from now on, Germany will not bend to Chinese pressure over human rights, over a free Taiwan and sales of strategic infrastructure in Europe. That's unlikely to happen, however, under Scholz. When will they ever learn? Vladislava Gabalova, Senior Research Fellow, Center for Global Europe. With its Zeitenwende, Germany is reluctantly moving away from the long-held guiding light of change through trade. Yet, the new foreign policy of Chancellor Scholz is still not well defined, slow in commitment, and shy in leadership. The trip might be seen internally as one successful example of finally leading in talks with China, but the feeling elsewhere is that Chancellor Scholz is not traveling under the mandate of the EU. Rather, with Xi Jinping, he will be walking a tightrope between assuring some form of strategic economic partnership with China, being wary of calls for isolation, and staying on course with Europe's definition of China as a systemic rival. Putin looks weak. Russia backs down on grain shipments. Russia has re-entered an agreement to allow Ukraine to safely export its grain via a designated shipping corridor. Russia suspended the agreement a few days ago, but Ukraine's refusal to halt grain shipments, and vehement criticism from the international community, seem to have pushed Moscow to back down. Russia left the agreement after accusing Ukraine of using the safety corridor, meant only for shipping grain, as an avenue for its drones to carry out an attack on Russian ships. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.